Jay Humphrey, we're back on Elephant in the Room. Guys, it's good to have you here today. I've got a special guest, not just a special guest, but a special friend of mine. And we've gotten to know each other over the last 3 to 4 years, I would say, due to the fact of her personal story of involvement with DHS, with law enforcement, with the court systems. That's all in Pottawatomie County. And I deal with a lot of people who are confronted with these kind of issues. And man, I mean, going up against the state, going up against the court system, and going up against law enforcement all at once, as a parent, is really difficult to do. And she's been successful going up against them. And what I so respect about you, Roberta, you haven't just been successful, but you've got involved in other people's cases, helping other people, getting the word out. Guys, if you've heard that Moody case on the medical kidnapping out of OU and all of that, hey, this lady right here is one who really broke that, sent it to me, sent it to other people like me. Shane Jett and Jake Merrick, and just a whole lot of us that got out there and started making noise and got that out there in front. She's got quite a bit of following herself. She's ran for, what district was that, Roberta?
House District 27.
House District 27. Again, my hat's off to you, because you haven't let this, instead of letting this defeat you, this has been something that's become your passion. So if you could, let's start with what happened. How did you get involved in this? What happened? Give us just a little rundown what your story is.
Well, prior to 2021, I was a stay-at-home mom. I'm a retired veteran. And so just staying at home with my kids, PTAs, sports, the whole thing. And in December of 2021, my 14-year-old son made a video with one of the family firearms. And of course, one of the students at school seen it. She was concerned, not for her safety or anybody else's safety, but the fact that one of her 14-year-old students, was made a video with a family firearm. So she had never been around firearms. She didn't understand them. And so she was concerned. She took her concern to the guidance counselor at the school, who was a first-year implant here from California. The guidance counselor lost it. She contacted law enforcement without ever seeing the video. Nobody to this date that I'm going to talk about today has ever seen this video. So she contacted law enforcement. Law enforcement contacted me, told me that my son had made this video, and asked me to come down and talk to them. And being a veteran who loves this country, I naively believed that if we didn't do anything wrong, you go down and you talk to them and you tell them you didn't do anything wrong. We don't do that anymore. We don't, if we're given the right to remain silent, now we remain silent.
I told a guy that the other day. Well, we haven't done anything wrong. I said, you ain't hearing me. You ain't hearing me. It doesn't matter if that, I'm just telling you, best thing you can do is read me my rights, that right to remain silent. That's what I want to do. And that right to call my lawyer. Let's get that. Otherwise, I have nothing to say.
That's right. Am I detained or am I free to go? And if I'm free to go, we leave. We don't say nothing.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
And so,
and again, I'm a law enforcement officer. And you know what? I used to think the same way that you did. And then I got investigated. And I'm a law enforcement officer. I just like say, hey, we're going to get to the truth. Let's talk about truth. And man, things get taken out of context. Things get totally turned around. Not what I said, not what we did. And next thing you know, it's all out of hand. And so I have learned over the years, and I've been the subject, man, I've had some people mad at me. I've been the subject of many, many investigations. And you know what? You learn pretty quickly. Nope.
Oh, yeah.
I got nothing to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now we know, and those are conversations we have within our household. You don't talk to the police without a lawyer. And if you're being detained, we contact a lawyer. If you're free to go, we go. And we keep our mouths shut. And so That's what I did. I went down there and, we talked to the deputy, the investigator, and I even told my son to hand over his phone. I let the deputy go through his phone. I said, there's nothing here. You go through the phone. He goes to the phone and doesn't find anything. And, I got the first phone call at 8 o'clock. It was a Friday morning. I got the first phone call at 8 o'clock Friday morning. By 12 o'clock Friday at noon, we were in front of a district judge. And my son was being charged with felony count threats and intimidation on a video that nobody has seen. I can't see it. The court can't see it. The officer can't see it. Nobody can see it. And so, we go before this judge. She orders that I have to personally put my child in inpatient mental health. And I have to find him a facility. I have to find him a bed. And I've got just hours to do it. And if I don't, they're going to, take him and put him in a detention center. And so I left that court hearing, understanding that, I just had hours to find my son a bed. She also ordered that before I could even bring my son home with me, I had to have all of the guns in my home removed. I couldn't bring him home with any guns. And so that's what I did. I immediately called, my son's dad, and I said, hey, go to the house and get the guns. They're serious here. There's something going on. And so that night, an hour later, DHS showed up at my doorstep. They launched an investigation into me for neglect, failure to, oh gosh, the word I'm looking for is escaping, failure to watch over my 14-year-old kid, basically. I had left him at home. This video he made, he made it on a Thursday night. My daughter had dance. We were at dance. I left my 14-year-old home alone, and that's what he chose to do at this time. And so I put him in.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Nobody's seen the video, so how are they acting on a video on one kid's information that went to a school? It wasn't a resource officer. It was counselor. And the counselor never saw the video. Nobody ever produced the video.
Right. I've never seen this video. This is a 5-year, we're looking at 5 years now. I've never seen the video. So prosecutors have never seen the video. Judges, nobody's ever seen this video. It's not in existence. And so, DHS came, and then DHS escorted me to the hospital where they made me, give my consent to put him inpatient mental health. And so that's what I did. I thought, that's what I was supposed to do. Of course, it's a Friday night. It's after hours. You can't call anybody. There's no lawyers. It is a week before Christmas. Any lawyer that's worth anything's, out of town with family and, anything, you can't call anybody. And so I did everything I was supposed to do. Monday morning, I go down to the courthouse and I want all of the paperwork. Now I've got to go hire an attorney. And so I go to the court clerk's office and I want the court order. I go to the sheriff's department and I want the police report. The court clerk told me that there's not a court order, that as a matter of fact, this judge wasn't even in on Friday. And I said, well, yeah, she was. We were in front of her. And they just fought with me and they said, there's nothing in the system. That name doesn't exist. This judge wasn't here. And so now we've had a hearing that is not even on the record, and I can't even get a record of it. So I immediately go to the sheriff's department and I want the police report. My attorney. The sheriff's deputy, the investigator, denies me the police report. As a matter of fact, he says, you absolutely are not entitled to my investigation. And when I say you can have the police report, you can have the police report. So I took that information to an attorney who worked right across the street from the courthouse, which is where I was at. And I had to pay her to subpoena this investigator. I had to subpoena that police report. It cost me $1,500. And I didn't even get the entire police report. I just got the counselor's statement. So it took me 9 months of going to the sheriff's department every day for 9 months and asking for that police report. I finally got a hold of a lady. It was like her first day on the job. The poor lady, there was phones were ringing off the hook, papers going everywhere. I just walked in, told her what case number I needed, handed her $10. She printed it off and gave it to me. She didn't redact any minors' names. That's how I found out who the minors were here. She didn't redact any names. She didn't redact anything. She didn't call and ask permission. She just handed me the report. It took me 9 months to get that. And it was just a fluke that I got it.
Right.
But to this day, there's not a court order that exists in this case.
And that's amazing because your kid was forced to go into a mental health institution, a mental health hospital. They threatened you. I mean, if I remember right, that's going back a little bit, but they actually threatened to take your other child away. If you didn't sign this, we're going to take your other child. So again, that's extortion. That's for you guys and a lot of people don't like hearing this, that DHS and the courts and sometimes law enforcement, and I'm a fan of law enforcement, but guys, we've got to police ourselves. Here's the deal. We've got a lot of rogue judges. We got a lot of rogue DAs. We got a lot of rogue law enforcement officers. And if we don't police that, if we don't call it, if you judges don't call out, then guess what? Then it makes every one of us look bad, and the confidence, there's no trust left. There's no, you know what I'm saying? Used to, man, people respected law enforcement. And again, some of that, we've got some people out there that want to harm the law, fight the law. Yeah, that's not right. But guys, we got to shoulder some of the responsibility when you mistreat the public, when you won't give your reports, be transparent, when there's absolutely zero transparency, and when you're violating the law. And here's the deal: we skimmed right past this listening to you. Your Second Amendment. Did they even ask you, do you have a gun safe? Can you put these guns where he can't get to them? I mean, was that even an option?
No, it was just ordered they had to be gone. And, a funny thing about that is when DHS got here, it wasn't only my guns they took. She insisted that my son was such a menace to society, I had to box up my kitchen knives. She said I couldn't even have knives. But, what's funny about that is my children they're Native American. And so I have a display of Native American hatchets that I have just found here and there. And I thought that they were cool. Those were allowed to stay. But the kitchen knives, no, we can't do that. So, I mean, for a long time, I couldn't even have my kitchen knives.
So how long did this last that you couldn't have your guns and your knives?
So it took me 19 months to get my guns back. I had to contact the sheriff's department. I had to request for them to close the case and give me special permission to have my guns back. And
how does the sheriff give you permission? The sheriff don't have authority to take your guns. Sheriff has no authority to order you to get your guns back or not get your guns. So how in the world did the sheriff? I mean, that would have to be a judge. DHS can't order you. You tell DHS, kiss your butt. I wouldn't suggest saying it like that. That's the way I say it. But I would suggest being a little more polite, tactful, but just saying that, you don't have the authority. If you want me to remove my guns, I need to see a court order. And again, when that court does that, they're violating your Second Amendment right. You have the right. Nothing will infringe on your right to keep and bear arms. That's what the Second Amendment's all about. And again, if they have some, I understand if your child is, we're looking at cases. A guy just got sentenced the other day because he was aware of his kid's mental health conditions, bought his son, what I understand, an assault rifle, and again, which is just a rifle, but at the end of the day, he bought his kid this rifle. He knew his kid had mental health. He knew his kid was fixated on doing bad things. And so the court found him negligent. I think sentenced him to like 15 years. Again, not saying I don't know all the facts of that case, Not saying they're wrong. If that dad knew that and did absolutely nothing, and then he went down and did a school shooting, I can see where they would reach that conclusion. So if they had something, but your kid had never been in trouble before, correct?
No, no trouble. So what we know is, how do I get a judge to rescind an order that she never did? So she told me that I had to remove my guns. I removed my guns. I did what I was told to do. But now how do I get them back? Because there's no record that she even told me I had to get rid of them in the first place.
Well, you just go take them back and say, "Go give me the court order that says I can't have them. Y'all kiss my honey.
Yeah.
If you want a court order, let's get it on." And
Yeah.
so, but here's the deal. You know that today,
Yep.
when they're sitting there telling you you're going to take your kid, when they're sitting there, courts and law enforcement officers, and you haven't dealt with this, you haven't had to walk through this. Now you know your rights. Now you can go, "Hey, all right, here's where I'm at. I will remove my guns as soon as you supply the court order. If you do not have a court order, you don't have the authority, and you don't have the authority. Give me the court order and I'll comply. I want that on the record too. I'm not complying. I'm asking for the proper records." And when you do it like that, guess what? They'll get mad, they'll leave, and of course they'll retaliate against you.
Yeah.
And they'll come after you, no question. But again, you just have to keep going, standing on your rights, fighting back. But how many kids are being taken because they don't have a parent like you who can reach out, who has the financial ability, who, again, has, and I am not talking about anybody, but a lot of people do not have, you have to have a little bit of education. And I know that she does, because I've actually got a big 3-ring binder that she's put together. And I was one of the ones have a 3-ring binder. And the minute she brought it in, I was like, "Okay, I'm with you. I'm on your case." Because guess what? It wasn't her saying something. What I love is when people walk in, and so many people walk in with mountains and mountains of stuff that just don't really matter. You know what I mean? The stuff you had was, okay, how we going to prove this right here? Okay, how we going to prove this right here? So again, you had it very organized. You had it, labeled in sections and whole 9 yards, and really in a pretty little folder is orange, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it really stood out. So that's what me and you got to, I don't know who sent you my way, but you'd come to my office and you had that huge, huge folder. And again, we sat and went through it. And I was like, okay, I don't know that I've helped you, but me and you have tried to help a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of stuff together, developed, a good friendship. I really call you a friend. I appreciate all the work you do. But again, this law enforcement officer, what's become? I mean, so did he get fired? I mean, what happened?
So we have to fast forward about 2 years, and this guy decides that he's going to run for office, county commissioner here in Pottawatomie County. And of course, my thought is absolutely not. And so I start speaking out about his behavior with my family, about what happened with my family. And of course, like you said, retaliation came. And so what this man did is he went to work one day, sat down at his government computer, logged on with his government credentials, and he pulled up the closed case of a minor for my 14-year-old son. He pulled it up, he modified it, added 8 pages to it, called it a mental health, it was a mental health evaluation, and printed it out in duplicate. And later on that night, I was having a town hall down here in southern Pottawatomie County where I had candidates coming in to speak. It was very well attended. Over 100 people attended that town hall. And he handed that file out like campaign material just to discredit me and to ruin the reputation of a 14-year-old kid. And so immediately I said, hey, this is illegal. Parts of it constituted a felony. And so I immediately reached out to the sheriff's department. The sheriff at the time told me he gave him permission to do it. He was very proud of it. He boasted about it. He said, I gave him permission to do it. And so I took those emails and I took everything I had, my binder, and I filed a complaint with the sheriff's department. I filed a complaint with FBI under color of law. I tried to file, I went to
Now,
my,
when you say, just so our listeners understand, when you say color of law, guys, what she's talking about right there is that when the courts or one of the law enforcement uses their positions, uses their power, uses their office, whatever you want to say, as doing something wrong, but presenting it as I'm the sheriff, I'm the judge, and I've read the law and I understand the law, and this is true, and this is so people take it that yes, I mean because that's this person putting it out, when in fact they know it's a lie, and that's called under the color of law. It's a fraud, but they're using their office, they're using the law enforcement, the law of the court system to commit a fraud on people, more or less. That's what color of law means, is my understanding. So,
yes.
yeah. And that's worse because people take it that it's got to be true, because the sheriff wouldn't make up something and stick it out publicly.
Yeah.
And even if he had made up, they can't put it out on juvenile.
Correct. So his validation for that is he redacted my son's name, but he left my name, he left my son's address, and he told people that it was my son. So you can't redact his name and then tell people his name. I mean, it's the same thing. You're disclosing the identity of
Absolutely. You surely
14-year-old
can't
kid.
make up, I mean, and to make it up, that's 10 times worse. I mean, it's fraud.
Right. And then, let's talk about this mental health report. You dang sure can't release the mental health records of a minor, of anybody. Those are sealed documents. So maybe it wasn't an official document that's protected under HIPAA, but he definitely presented it as such. And so, now he's handing this out. And so we got a new sheriff, and I asked the new sheriff to file an OSBI investigation. And of course, he kind of didn't want to. I got my senator involved. I tried to get my House representative involved. He wanted nothing to do with it. That's why I ran against him. But, I got my senator involved. He was very persistent. We tried to put on a grand jury down here in Pottawatomie County. You were at that. And, the district attorney then didn't want anything to do with it. He doesn't want anything to do with transparency down here. Thank God we got a new district attorney, so maybe some things will start changing.
The DAL got, I have high expectations. I think it's a really good one. We got one up at Payne County. So things are starting. We're seeing the ship turn around, that some of this stuff actually comes out. And again, what I love about the Payne County, and again, a lot of your Payne County people need to understand, a lot of your Payne County cases will end up due to conflict or end up in Lincoln or Pottawatomie, and vice versa. Y'all's cases end up there. And so it's important to have these guys pretty close. And so that Payne County guy has come out. I mean, here's where I'm at. I'm kind of still from, what's that, Missouri, Show Me State. So I'm not going to get out over my skis, but he's been in like a week and a day or something, and he has already come out with two major things. And the thing that he has come out is publicly saying that we're going to serious listening to me, telling me I have no defense on something. Wow. Shut up, Siri. Quit listening to my conversation. So anyways, he came out and said the big thing that his office is going to be is transparent. And, that's what we need, is to be able to see your case. If they had transparency, where's the judge's order? Where's the order? Well, there is none. Okay, then we're done talking. Then why did y'all have me go put that kid down there? Why did we do this? Why did you threaten me? If there's no court order and you were threatening me, DHS was threatening and no court order. And again, I listened to the tapes. I remember, now correct me if I'm wrong, but they were saying, well, we can't tell you, but if you do this, the judge is going to, so they were like, we're not extorting you. We're just telling you that if you don't do what we say, the judge is going to do it. They were putting it off on the judge. Well, guess what? If there's no court order, then that's a lie, and that's misrepresentation, and that's a threat, and that's extortion. And again, these people ought to be charged. I mean, but guess what? Nobody, and I know personally because I stood on the courthouse lawn personally and raised Cain and went personally. I think that was me, you, and Mandy. Maybe there was about four of us.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Jett was there.
Yeah,
but we all went to. It seems like one of the judges. I can't remember if we went to multiple judges and gave them that petition in person, delivered it. So, I mean, I've been involved in a lot of this stuff, and guys, it is wrong. This is a fight that we're fighting because if it was just Roberta's case, we could step away and say, well, we had one bad case. It just, it's misunderstanding. Okay, the whole thing went awry. But no, I mean, this is case after case after case. When we're out there at Pottawatomie County Courthouse, guess what? The whole courthouse is full. I mean, the whole yard out there is full. Yeah. So what happened? They investigate this case. So did the guy get fired? I mean, what's
no? So I finally got the new sheriff to turn it into OSBI for an investigation. And OSBI did their investigation. I did the same thing with OSBI that I did to you. I walked in with a 3-ring binder full of evidence. And so about the time they got done with their investigation, I'm not privy to that information because OSBI investigations are not for the public to see. So I can't even get the investigation. But about the time they got done, this 40-something-year-old deputy decides he's going to retire. He's taking retirement. And they let him retire. And he goes on to apply for a job at Gettner Drummond's office.
Well, and I want to stop right there. That's the big problem because we have like officers get in trouble at one department and they let them slide by saying, well, we're not going to file charges on you. If you'll just resign, we'll let you go. Well, they resign, they go right down the road. And guess what? They get it. I can show you people that's had 2 or 3 different cases at different departments and every time let go and they just go right down the road and do it again. And so, again, that's a huge, huge problem. So they let this guy go and he goes to work in whose office?
Gettner Drummond's office.
I just like to hear that. Gettner and I'm doing a deal. So I'm coming out with a cartoon today called The Big Lie. And I'm going to put a video out showing the biggest lie told in quite some time. He's going to win the Pinocchio prize. He's going to win the big long nose thing. Gettner. So Gettner's got this guy hired. Now, is he aware of all this stuff going on? You think that he's been told that?
I reached out to my state senator. And I told him, I said, hey, this guy's getting a job. He's applied for a job at Gettner Drummond's office. And my senator, who is a man for the people, he works for the people. You send him a request and he's working on it. You can bet your bottom dollar he's working on it.
Shane Jett.
Yes, Shane Jett. He sent several letters to the AG's office informing them that there was an active OSBI investigation, informing him of all of the allegations against this guy. And so we really expected Gettner Drummond's office to say, you know what, we don't want this kind of drama in our office. We don't want this kind of bad exposure, especially since he's getting ready to run for governor. We expected him to say, no, we don't want, this kind of thing in our office. But they didn't. They hired him, and they hired him as the lead. He's the lead director for the domestic violence program out of Gettner Drummond's office.
Wow.
And
so not just hire him as an officer, but in domestic abuse, which is going in family issues. And we've seen right here that he went off way half-cocked, zero evidence. then in a retaliation, cover his hiney, falsified records, which I was looking a while ago, and I've got it somewhere right there. That again, I've got the statute where uh, you know, changing, altering, destroying, all of those, a court record is a felony. That is a felony. I've got
Mhm.
that looked up because we've got the court clerks changing records and backdating stuff. And again, pulled that up to look at it. And so I do have, I was trying to figure out where I got that on my phone.
Yeah.
I think I can find it. I got sidetracked there. Uh,
Well, what's really surprising about that is I just learned several months ago that he didn't necessarily retire from the sheriff's department down here. He's still a reserve deputy.
right.
He's working dual positions there.
And here's the deal: it's a sham because what they do, they let everything. So he goes off up here, gets hired. OSBI just lets this investigation ride. Well, we really didn't find anything, or well, we found that, but it wasn't sufficient enough. We didn't feel like it was enough to file on. Well, yeah, it's enough to file on. Did he falsify records? And again, just for our listeners, so you'll know that I really was telling the truth. Title 21, 21-461, Section 461, it's listed as larceny or destruction of records by a clerk or officer. So again, what we're talking about here is an officer. We're not talking about larceny or destruction, but what we're talking about is fraud. But if I remember correctly, as I have read this statute just recently, if you manipulate, defacing, altering, falsifying, or unlawfully removing, destroying, stealing, but again, we've got in there, altering, falsifying, which is going to cover this, in being under this statute. So again, it is a Class D1 felony offense, punishable by imprisonment, as provided in certain sections of the law. And so again, just so our listeners know that I'm not making that up and that I'd actually kind of had that read it. But when we were talking about that, I was like, where did I get that? I knew I had it somewhere. Anyways, there you go, guys. I mean, here's the deal: the guy falsified records, juvenile records. So again, that right there, I hadn't looked up some laws and statutes under that, but we know one, mental health comes under HIPAA, so they can't share that information. Now I call all the time wanting information on adults in the prison. Oh, that falls under HIPAA. That falls under HIPAA. We can't give you that money. But guess what? We're gonna put out in a handed out locally in a paper. Okay, I will guarantee you that's a violation. One, then you got juvenile. To hand out any juvenile information is again a violation of the law. And then you got falsifying all of it. So you falsified medical mental health information that was completely, totally false and handed it out. Multiple crimes here, and yet the OSBI did nothing.
Nothing. The OSBI, the district attorney, as a matter of fact, nobody's done anything. They just think it's going to go away. But, I'm working on some things. It's not going to go away. As long as I'm here, it's not going to go away. I don't want to make that make any suggestions.
Well, we're not making a threat.
Ideas.
Hey, this is not a threat to say that I am going to continue to stand up for my rights, for my family rights. And I will tell you this, man, my kids have seen me fighting these fights, listening to me. What's the deal? I don't know that the kids know the stuff that I'm saying as well. Because again, until you walk in it, until they filed on you, until, what I'm saying, it just, I told somebody the other day, I knew the First Amendment. Yeah, I could quote you the First Amendment on, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, I knew all of those things. I knew right to petition, but you don't think right to petition, right to assemble, right to associate, right to redress grievances. Hey, I can spout them off all day long, but until you go to try to stand up, protect those, use those, and see how the court fights you, how the
Mhm.
AG fights you, how the government officials fight you, Supreme Court fights you, judicial complaint fights you. When you get entrenched in that fight, you start to learn what the founding fathers were all about, and then you start to understand, oh, hey, these guys had people kicking in their doors. These guys couldn't get a fair system. These guys didn't have a fair system. They couldn't get a fair shake in a courtroom. And guess what? They created in the First Amendment everything that would hold your government every way. Guess what? That freedom of speech means I can speak against the government because used to they get you killed. And now you're going to get retaliation. I mean, we're back. We're not quite where we were 1776. But guys, if we don't get entrenched and get together, take these rights back, we're going to be. I tell people all the time, hey, it's my 1776 moment. This is where I stand up and fight for our constitutional rights and not to let this court system lie and take them away from us. And again, in your case, every corner you've turned around, the sheriff's supposed to defend you and should. Now, the sheriff did, the new sheriff, right?
Yes.
Did kind of, I mean, he did write a letter and say, hey, I can't find anything. There's nothing here. And you're going to get your guns back, right?
Yeah. And he requested the OSBI investigation like I asked him to. But, I have serious concerns when I've given you the evidence that your deputy is crooked and you still keep him on as a reserve deputy.
Yeah, I would have a problem if you presented me with those facts.
Yeah.
I just tell him, hey, you put these kids' records out and falsified records. In fact, if I saw that, you know what I'd do?
Yeah.
I wouldn't need the OSBI. If I saw that he falsified those records, guess what? I don't need the OSBI to do it. I'd file on it. Boom. I filed multiple probable causes with the AG on Fauci, on ATF, on various others. Guess what? He won't do them, but it doesn't mean I don't have the, that's on him. I have the ability to know the law. I'm a law enforcement reserve, but I can write a probable cause as a legislator and just submit it and say, look, I'm law enforcement. I know what a probable cause looks like. Here's a probable cause. Have your people investigate it. Go do your own probable cause. But here's the facts of the case, and they have refused to do anything, period. In any of those cases, I know they've refused your case, and we could sit here between the two of us and name cases all day long. As we mentioned, the Moody case that you were really, really involved in, getting that information out. Shane Jett, really involved in that. Jake Merrick, really involved in that. I was kind of lesser role, but still got the word out, talking on that. And what's happened because of that case, now I have brought, I don't know how many medical, I've got one right now where they filed child abuse on a dad who was 1,400 miles away in Georgia when all this happened. His kid got sick on goat's milk, was contaminated, had a little Ebola because he wouldn't agree to do a study on goat's milk, or that's what he feels like. I agree with him, but he wouldn't get involved in a study that OU wanted to do. And he said the minute he refused, that they flipped the script and went after him, took both his kids. He's going to court. They've had him in court for a year, never filed for preliminary, year 2 months or something, preliminary, and then turned around and he brings the records in. Judge, I was 1,400 miles away. You're going to say giving goat's milk is neglect? They filed child abuse on him, took his kids for goat's milk, and again, they bound him over the other day. With all that evidence that he wasn't even here, we're going to file neglect on you. Well, how are you going to neglect if you're 1,400 miles away at work? And we're talking about goat's milk. Because again, how many people have given eggs and it was E. coli contaminant? How would you know? How's that being neglectful? I can give goat's milk, 5 years and get one bad batch. Is that neglect? You could have got that at the store with pasteurized milk. How many things have had been recalled, food wise, milk wise, ice cream, whatever? I mean, how many things are being recalled every day? Does that make you neglectful? Because so it's crazy. These are things we're seeing. Hey, we're having a pretty good conversation because it's almost an hour right now. But before you get off here, I do want to finish up by saying that you're very involved in politics. Me and you have been talking about the state superintendent's race, and this guy named Robert Franklin. Yeah. And Franklin, from where I'm at, I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. I'm Republican, but back in the day in southeastern Oklahoma, you couldn't vote for commissioner, you couldn't vote for sheriff unless you were Democrat. I was Democrat. I was out there campaigning for Republicans. The day Obama lit up the White House, made it look like a crack house, put them rainbow colors for the homosexual movement, I went down and said, that's it. I changed that next day, I think it was, a day or two later, whenever it was, I changed. I didn't change because I was running. In fact, when I ran, I was the first Republican to get elected. So being a Republican was a disadvantage to me. Now, these people right now who are changing parties, and again, I don't mind you coming from California, but don't come from California to Oklahoma and bring your California politics because you hated California, what's California become, but you'll come right here and bring your politics. Same thing here. Don't switch Democrat Party to bring your Democrat politics to Republicans. If you're Democrat, stay Democrat, stand where you are, But if you're Republican, okay, be Republican. But this guy right here, Franklin, looks to me like somebody who is very much on the Democratic Party, believes all the Democratic, and again, the old blue dog Democrat, I don't mind. But that new woke Democrat is lost their mind, communist, socialism, all of that kind of stuff. He appears to be more on that side of the aisle with them, not moving over here, change party just to run, just to get elected. I mean, he is a Democrat, change party, just run. We're seeing that a bunch right now. Mm-hmm. Okay. But now we're finding out that he was an employee at a couple. Now, this is what we're understanding. We're researching it. But he was an employee at 2 detention centers. Both detention centers closed due to sexual abuse. Is that right? Reported
allegations of many abuses.
Okay, I mean, just sexual. It's all, lots of abuses like food, cleanliness, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Mistreatment.
Mm-hmm.
But also some sexual. Now, we're not saying he did that, but what we're saying, he worked at that. He worked at 1, not 1, but worked at 2. And now there's a tape going around of him having a conversation with the parent, I take it, that he was responsible. And when we're talking about scratch guys, you know what? I'd bring back the paddling in school. I'd a whole lot rather, myself, don't put me in detention. Don't, just take me in there and let's get her over with. And I promise you, I may not straighten up, but I'll try to be a little slicker. You know what I'm saying? I'll keep it to a minimum when I know I'm going to get in there and get that fanny whacked, I'd be for bringing that back. So again, I know teachers, discipline problems, kids with ADHD or, that's autistic, man, we just got a lot more of that. We got a lot more disrespect, out of control. So I get all that. But at the same time, when you look at the scratch on this kid's face behind his ear, and it ain't just 1, it looks like 2. And it's pretty significant. I mean, it's not just no little bitty scratch. And he's calling saying, I'm responsible for that. And again, my understanding that was made by twisting that kid's ear.
Mhm.
Am I right on that?
The audio just says that he grabbed him, by the ears. The kid he has scratches behind the ears. Maybe cut our fingernail. I don't know why doesn't cut his fingernails, but okay. And then just nonchalantly, says, I'm the bad guy here. But I don't know, we can't even paddle our kids in school, but it's okay to grab them by the ears. And it's important to know that this is a nonverbal kid.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
And
so
here's the deal. I don't know about these teachers, but I know as a law enforcement officer, I'm required. I just took them the other day. I had to take uh, continual education, and 2 hours of that has to be mental health. Okay. They're wanting to make domestic abuse, and I've had a lot of I'm a domestic abuse facilitator, so I'm trained to train people in that. But here's the deal. Um, you would think if you're dealing with nonverbal autistic children that you're going to realize, because that's what they teach you. You know, mental health people can kind of push you to your limits sometimes, but you got to remember they're not mentally capable, they're not competent, so you can't, if they're saying stuff about you or stuff that's just far out and crazy, again, you got to protect yourself. You can't let them kill you. But at the end of the day, you go the extra mile to try to put them in compliance without physical harm, because again, they're not competent. And so again, when we say a nonverbal kid, some nonverbal kids might be, okay and understand and follow instructions. But normally, when we say a nonverbal kid, they're pretty challenging. They're challenging, but that's what you're there, and that's what you are. If you're in that environment, that's what you deal with. You do not grab them by the ears and twist their ears and put marks behind them. If that's what he did, there's no question. There's a tape, him taking responsibility. Yeah, hey, no big deal, but I put a bunch of marks on your kid's neck right there. I'm the one responsible for that. He's a little out of control today.
right.
Golly. And then when you add in that he worked at 2 of these facilities that ended up getting closed due to abuse, and you're seeing, what appears to be abuse, I think people need to be aware of this. It's pretty ugly to me. And again, people need to be aware that he is not who he claims to be. He is not, so if you're looking for conservative, and we've seen a conservative movement, we've seen all 77 counties be red, vote conservative. This guy's definitely, he ain't on that platform. He's a, what's that? He's a sheep in the wolf. I mean, wolf in the sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
I've got to get that back. He's a wolf in the sheep's clothing. He's trying to be a fraud. And again, I tell you, I don't mind Democrats. I work with Democrats. I got friends who are Democrats, really good friends who are Democrats. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but I got friends. But what I will respect is, can you articulate where you stand? And if you take a stand, I respect, take a stand. And so this guy, I would encourage people, go look at what we're talking about. This video's out there. Go do your own research, see if you can find where he worked for these places. And again, I personally, I'm not going to vote for him. I just let people know I'm going to vote for Mr. Taylor all the way. And I will tell you, Mr. Taylor has a urban view. And if he would come down here to the rural, me and him do not agree on all, especially consolidation stuff. We don't agree. But here again, Reagan said, the guy that I agree with 80% is my friend. You know what I'm saying? So me and Mr. Taylor probably agree on 85%. So again, the other guy, I've listened to him. I don't agree with a lot that he has to say. So,
Yeah.
hey, anything else that we left out of your case? We're fixing to have to wrap up. We got about 4 more minutes. Anything that you'd like to share with people?
Just that, it's scary in the moment. And I get phone calls every week. Somebody's going through it. And I tell them, when I tell them, hey, you got to take a stand. You got to stand up. You got to say, no, I want my lawyer. And I mean, these people are scared. I mean, they're being threatened. They're being threatened with lots of things, and they're scared. And I understand it in the moment. But I mean, it only takes one person to make an example. Hopefully, I'm that person. I'm going to make an example out of all these people, and DHS and law enforcement and judges kind of start thinking twice before doing what they're doing. I think we have some good people that are out here activated, and they're able to get that done. So maybe we see changes. I just got a phone call yesterday from another case. And so it seems like it's nonstop, but it's not a reason to not be involved in it,
Well,
so.
I can tell you, I probably get, and I'm not over exaggerating, between the prison and DHS, I would say I get maybe 12 calls a day, probably. Emails, messages, text, whatever. And guys, if you're listening, I apologize if I can't get back to. I had a guy this morning that's a good friend of mine. Hey, I tried to call you and you didn't call back. I didn't even see where you tried. I mean, I get so many calls. It's hard to keep up with who I've called back, who I've not called. And if I click on your name with intending to call you and somebody else called, bam. But 10 to 12 at least daily. And I do want to end on this. Guys, when you have people like Gittner Drummond who have been sitting in that office, who've received multiple, from Shane Jett, from me, from Dana Pareto, from Woolley, and numerous other legislators, begging him, would you please investigate all of these issues? We're getting all of these calls, and DHS, and not only has he not done it, but he's had multi-county grand juries that were ordered. He's closed them. We've gotten a grand jury. He's closed them. So it's not only that he wouldn't do them, and he has the statutory authority to order them. He's had DAs asking him to. He's had judges asking him to, and he's refused to do them. And we're the number one state for taking kids out of home. Okay, number one. It's a profit. They're making money off of it. We showed you that 2 weeks ago. So again, I just want you to consider as we go to the polls to vote. When you got a guy that's been in there 4 years, he's had the top job to do something, and he's done absolutely nothing. Refused to investigate counties, refused to investigate DHS, refused to investigate the DAs that multiple people are reporting, guys, and then hire somebody who lies, commits fraud, and he knows it, and the senator calls him, shows him that. Guys, that's not somebody I'm going to vote for. That's somebody that we need to send home. We need to send him down the road kicking rocks. Please don't vote for that guy, because again, I'm just scratching the surface when I'm telling you about all the things, how he's let children be molested. He let rape victims continue as victims, done nothing for them, refuses to investigate anybody. He should not be your next governor. So, hey, with that, we're just right on time right there. Roberta, I want to tell you, I appreciate you more than you even know. You're a great, great friend, and I respect what you're doing, helping others, because you've gotten some education yourself on the hard end of School of Hard Knocks. Had to pay high dollar tuition, but again, you got educated on that, and you're not just keeping that to yourself. You're using that education to help others and to change our state, and I very much appreciate you.
Thank you, JJ.
You bet. You have a good day.